weekend spectrum.
Like, can you believe that? A lone man? I can't believe Jimmy Ike is a hermit.
Well, same here. I find that very hard to believe considering the fact that a lot of girls will throw themselves at his feet.
Okay, I think that's celebrity life. After all, everybody wants to mingle with them. Everybody wants to get closer to celebrities.
He is quite a remarkable actor, and if you've seen his work, he's great at what he does. And like he said, it's strictly business for him when he's on set.
Well, interesting. Today's generation of Gambians are learning about the historic struggle leading to independence, thanks to the oral and ocular sources of history. As part of our series on the 21st century history of Banjul, Weekend Spectrum visited the National Museum in Banjul to find out more on what is deposited there.
The National Museum in the Gambia was established in the 1980s, located along the Independence Drive at the heart of the country's capital, Banjul. It remains the country's main repository of tangible and intangible aspects of the country's cultural heritage. Traffic is sometimes heavy if you drive along the main road linking the museum and other places in the city. As part of our series on the 21st century history of Banjul, we visited the National Museum to learn more about the untold story of the struggle for political independence. And who is going to tell us what we need to know than our historian, Hausum Sise?
If you speak of infrastructure during the colonial period, it was self-serving. For example, they had bungalows like this on the Marina Parade by the seafront, where the colonial officials will stay.
Is this Atlantic Hotel now?
No, this is just, where maybe, I don't know, maybe forestry. You can confirm. I think it's forestry. Yeah. You see? But anyway, this was a bungalow built for a colonial civil servant in the 1950s along Marina Parade. Okay?
Having collected these precious items and studied them carefully, Cisse further explained in detail how the country was governed during the colonial era decades ago. What is more amazing to discover was the photos and the messages they seek to strengthen. Was indirect rule inconvenient? How was the Mansabengo held in those days?
This is a picture of the vessel called Mansakila. Now Mansakila was the governor's boat. Now when the British governor wants to tour the protectorate, to meet the chiefs, to go around the country to make sure that everything is fine, he will use this boat. Or when the colonial secretary wanted to travel up country, or like the traveling commissioners, they will use this boat. Or when they summon the chiefs, for a meeting, the Mansabengo, they will send this boat, up country to collect the chiefs. So this was also, a kind of infrastructure, but also it was meant only to facilitate, the smooth running of the colonial administrative machinery.
Hausum Sise further narrated what he referred to as misplaced development priorities during that period in context.
There was a disastrous flood in Batos, that's Banjul, okay? Because of the lack of drainage system in the town, there was a disastrous flood in 1948, as you can see in this picture. So here...
1947.
Well, 1948 in fact. So here you can see, the contrast, okay?
In Banjul, was it a question of negligence? House him again.
The city was, neglected. There was not a proper drainage system, until there was a serious flooding, okay? Which destroyed, the livelihoods of many people, and yet, they were able to spend money, to build, such beautiful bungalows, for the colonial officials. As part of the colonial infrastructure, you also have to mention, the forces of cohesion, the forces of control.
Those of us who have, the younger generation don't know about Empire Day. I'm sure you've read about
well, yes. So what they did was, they had to get an efficient police force, and there was also a military force, which was called the Royal West Africa Frontier Force. And now the purpose of this, forces, basically ceremonial. Like during Empire Day, they will mount a parade for the governor, or when they are visiting, royalty, they will mount a parade at the government wharf. And also, just in case, there should be disturbances, okay? Anti-colonial disturbances, then these same forces will be used to quell
any resistance.
Yeah, any resistance. So you could see that they also spend a lot of money, okay?
To maintain.
To maintain a police force, and to maintain, like a military force, during the colonial period,
Institutions that have keen interest in the growth and intellectual development of Africa are marking Africa Day in grand style. The Venezuelan embassy hosted an intellectual platform where Gambian elites addressed the gathering on the history of Pan-African movement.
As Pan-Africanism, because their exposure is causing the youths to actually shift and reject what Pan-Africanism is and try to be something other, and something other that moves away from not being able to be there and departing from what Pan-Africanism is or what Pan-African values are. So they're stuck in between, confused, because they will never be what they want to be or aspire to be culturally. So I'm sure that my colleagues will touch into that.
Today, these things must be reevaluated by the academia. This is why today, together with the University of the Gambia, we organized this forum. Our initial intention was to contribute to that review to make room for the dialogue. Today, through this panel and this intervention, we can nurture our thought process so badly needs in order to understand the African Liberation Day.
At every stage of the struggle, you look back and say, where am I in the struggle? Have I discovered myself as an African? Am I really free? Have I liberated my fellow Africans? Who am I as an African? What does it mean to be an African? What is Pan-Africanism? I said it's a liberation struggle of the people of African descent in Africa and in the diaspora. Diaspora meaning those in the Caribbean, those in South America, those in North America, those in Asia. Because I would always like to point out that the first continent on earth was Africa.
A united Africa with links to its diaspora has always been the dream of Pan-Africanists over the years. From the beginnings of slavery to the present day, activists and visionaries, whether they're Marcus Garvey, Du Bois, Kwame Nkrumah, NASA, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, who led the slave movement, and Harriet Tubman, who freed the slaves to upstate New York from the South. These were the beginnings of Pan-Africanism.
Historical as it is contemporaneous. Historically, the first Pan-African Congress was held in 1919 in Paris, which attracted representatives from African colonies, the Americas, and of course the West Indies. However, it was the fifth Pan-African Congress, which was held at Manchester in 1945, that not only domesticated the notion of Pan-Africanism, but also inspired nationalist liberation agitation.
Therefore, if we are to contextualize and conceptualize the concept of Pan-Africanism, just in 1960, we are not going to actually connect these people to their remote ancestors who established greater civilization in Africa. One has to understand the contribution of Africans in the global system. That is the time we will come to understand the world from the two dimensions. We have an old world and we have a new world. The penetration coming of the Europeans is in the 15th century. What of in the 8th century, whereby the Ghanaian aristocrats, because the Arab after the death of Prophet Muhammad, they were able to control both political and military sophistication. And they were able to control and dominate the major centers of it.
They were severely disappointed by the outcome of several decades of self-rule, which is nothing but gross mismanagement of economic resources, rampant corruption, nepotism, political insecurity, decline of state power and authority, abject poverty, military and autocratic rule, overseeing in power, and many more.
You've also seen the Embassy of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela marking Pan-African Day. I think they have also been doing this for some time now, honoring memory of our Pan-Africanists who fought for the liberation of this continent.
It is indeed a remarkable stride on their